Good morning, everybody. I'm Lauren Young. I'm an editor at Reuters. You say Reuters, not Reuters. And I want to introduce our panel today. We have all the way down on the end wearing the beautiful Choose Women t-shirt, Sarah Watson, who's the chairwoman of Global and Chief Strategy Officer at BBH. I didn't want to say BBG. And you're going to tell a little bit about what you do in the world of advertising in a second. We have Ben Davey, who is the official title CEO of Barclays Ventures, which is the incubator, cool kind of startup thing within a big bank. And then right here, yay, I am not going to woohoo like Wendy. She does it so much better. Joy Brown, who's the founder of Culture Creators and the senior vice president at Atlantic Records. All right, great. Let's just get started. Our panel is about entrepreneurship and gender equity. Ben, can you very concisely explain what entrepreneurship is? Because I didn't even know until I met you.
Okay, morning everyone. Great to be here. Thank you, Wendy. So look, entrepreneurship is all about taking the characteristics of an entrepreneur, the vision, the appetite, energy, diligence, resilience, and then taking it into a bigger corporation and giving your employees that opportunity to take all of those attributes and actually either do a business on their own within that bigger organization, so to create the environment where they can do it, or if they're actually just part of the core business, to still use those attributes to build growth, new ideas, new opportunities for the talent within the organization. So that's what entrepreneurship, I think we think is all about.
Troy, can you talk a little bit about at Atlantic Records, where you're dealing with so many creative people? How do you help foster that creativity and not lose them?
Well, for us, music and entertainment is about being ahead of trend. And so in an environment that's super creative, we're charged to, think outside the box and take risk. And I think creating a culture of risk takers, being afraid of not being afraid to make mistakes, you foster an environment where, everyone walks around with entrepreneurial efforts, just in our approach into our day to day. You have to think, how do we bring the next Coldplay album to life,
Wait, I'm going to do a little quick straw poll here. How many people have had a lemonade stand in their lifetime? You are all entrepreneurs. Keep going.
Right. And so, artists by nature are really entrepreneurs, right? So when they come to a record label, our job is to help amplify their awareness. And so we have to think like they think. So we have to think about, how do we build a business as a musician?
Right, but Sarah, being business-minded and being creative don't always go hand in hand. Tell me a little bit about your company and how you're fostering creativity and also how you're keeping talent by doing that.
So BBH, we're a creative agency, and actually you will see the launch of Choose Women later, some of the work we've done. It's very interesting what's happening particularly in advertising agencies. There is a bit of a crisis of creativity because it has been observed over the years that a lot of women's voices are genuinely excluded by the whole process. Because I think that there's something that happens, which is traditionally women have got put on girls' accounts on the tampons and the skincare and the diapers, and they haven't really been able to build up a portfolio which really stretches their voices. So then they find it harder to come up the industry. It's a very subjective conversation. You're always pitching your ideas to male creative directors. And it has caused a bit of a crisis in the industry, which we're taking on at a kind of an industry-wide level. But for us, it's absolutely crucial that female voices are heard and that women feel that they can express themselves and create, because otherwise we don't have an industry.
Ben, I don't think of banks as that creative. I'm sorry. I don't know if anybody here does, although they may fund a lot of creativity. But how are you fostering creativity within the bank? And tell me a little bit about some of the projects that you've helped to seed.
Okay, so look, I think the industry is changing, and I think hopefully people will be surprised at how quickly it's changing. So we have a whole host of programs. So I guess first of all, Barclays Ventures, what we actually do is separate ourselves out from the core strategies. We look forward in time, sort of 5 years or so. We think about the new technologies that are emerging, the extraordinary change that is coming through this fourth industrial revolution, and trying to think about what the product, services, requirements are for customers in the future. So that's the starting point. What we've then done is we have hired a team that is perhaps completely different to any normal banking team that you would expect. So it starts with deep technology, it starts with data analytics, UX, UI, and we've blended those skills in a way that creates pods of 6 to 7 people, and their job is to think about new businesses. I did a little check, actually, given the theme of today. So within that environment, we have a set of Eagle Labs, and the purpose of those is to help founders and startups grow. And within that, we have ecosystem managers. So they run the whole system on behalf of the founders. We then have lab managers who are day-to-day running the sites, and then we have these amazing lab engineers who can be experts in VR or AR, they can be manufacturing experts. I looked at them, we have 38 of those, and of those, 18 are women, so 47%.
Wow. I would love to have a team like that behind me, you know, supporting me. Joy, in the music world, it doesn't work like that exactly.
I would say, you know, at Atlantic, I'm blessed to have a female-led company, and Julie Greenwald leads it. And almost every corner office that's a senior level or executive above is filled by women. And so
I meant more about all the people supporting you, to have that much deep support of tech and finance, and that's a real gift.
It is truly a gift. If you go to CES, if you go to these conferences, it's a male-dominated world. You know, there's great opportunities like with Girls Lounge, where Shelley does, with Girls Lounge, creating an environment for all of us women to get together at these male-dominated conferences so that we can exchange and do businesses together. I think that's important. But, you know, having a seat at the table in the boys' world, especially in entertainment, is super critical.
Sarah, tell me a little bit about how you've mentored and sponsored women and helped them to, you know, really get their creative passions out there and to develop and grow.
So I genuinely feel that there is a big change happening in our industry, and it makes me think that this must be happening in all creative industries. You can hear these new voices emerging. When you even look at Netflix, the way the people who are directing and creating and telling stories now, and that is changing in our industry. And I think it's very interesting. I just came back from a kind of the headline event in our industry, which is the 3% conference, which was named for the fact that only 3% of creative directors were women. And this was 8 years ago. It's now 29% of people. And I think at an industry level, we've basically raised up the voices of everybody. On an individual level, though, it is genuinely about seeing people. It is about seeing the people who are writing, seeing that their voice is genuinely crucial to the businesses that we're creating communications for, and making sure that they're at the table.
I know that you both have girls. Ben, do you have daughters as well?
2, yes.
Okay, all right. So I have all boys, so I don't know anything about nurturing young women. But what advice would you have for the younger women in this room who have entrepreneurial ideas? How do you become successful? What is it? Who wants to take it? Sarah, you go.
Yeah, I can take it. You have to see opportunity everywhere. And I think I will say Wendy is the absolute epitome of this. This is why we are all here. You have to see opportunity everywhere, and you have to believe that you can do something about it. And I do think women traditionally have suffered from that self-doubt, that they see the opportunity, but it doesn't translate into action because they lack the confidence. And there's lots of statistics where you see, I think, when they enter college, they have all the confidence to make it happen. By the time they come out of it, they have lots of doubts about how far they're going to be in the world. So it is about having role models out there that people can see and that they can know that it's possible.
Joy, am I allowed to embarrass your daughters? I'm not pointing them out, but you're looking at them.
Yes, I am.
All right.
I'd say that the biggest lesson I've learned about being an entrepreneur is not being afraid to fail. I think that we go out and we think that we have these great ideas and we're so afraid to execute them because we're afraid of failing. And I think that if you don't fail on your first or second business idea, then you're not succeeding.
What was your biggest failure?
Oh my gosh, I think I've had like 5 different businesses before I've gotten to Culture Creators. It was the first thing that really launched off on a national level. But I tried to do this women's organization called Stakeholders, and the idea was, you know, we participate as stakeholders in each other's success, and it was great. And then I was like, okay, well, I lost passion, I lost fuel, and I couldn't get funding, and so I abandoned that, and then I tried other things, and I think you just keep trying, and you keep trying, and when you don't give up.
Have any of you ever failed bringing an idea to your company that you tried to launch something that really failed miserably?
All the time.
All the time.
And it's actually very interesting because big corporates, hate failure. And so the stigma that can attach to bringing an idea that fails, whatever your metrics are, can be a big deal. But I mean, I'll give you literally a mini example. So we have actually launched an Intrapreneur program in the UK, and the idea was we would take it out to corporates and help them create their own Intrapreneur programs. And we did a couple, and they worked. But the question that went, is a very obvious question, which is why you always need to test these things, that came back to us is, look, how successful has it been for you internally? And the answer was we had 2 or 3 successes, but not enough. So what we've done is, it was too early, so we brought it back in. We're now motoring it back through the organisation. We'll get hopefully 8, 9, 10 companies stood up off the back of that, and then we'll go back out to help. But it was too early. We brought it out to market too quickly.
What about you, Sarah? Any big failures you want to share with all your closest friends?
I was a part of the original Time's Up advertising movement. So we had a terrible, sexual harassment problem in the industry, and it was, I think I learned a lot from the movement that we tried to create to come to terms with this. You realise that activism is very hard, social change is very hard, it requires systemic change at lots and lots of levels, and I think this is now happening, but I think probably our early iterations of that might have been, we stumbled.
Why do you think it's so important for companies to nurture the passions of their female employees? Shouldn't it just be for everyone?
Well, the answer to that is yes, but then you have to take a view on whether you think that there is a level playing field or not. I have a personal view that there isn't yet. And therefore, what you then need to do is say, okay, what are the blockers? What are the issues? What's holding you back? And then you see what you can do about it. And it may be just little subtle things. I was interested in what Sarah said just a bit earlier on. One of the things we did in my bit of the world, we just made sure that interview panels for promotions and end of year just had good mix and balance. Little things like that. And then the other thing actually was on interview lists, which is, I know, and there were 50-50 on how you handle this. We just made sure that the longer lists were representative. Thereafter, the process runs very nicely, but very often, the long lists are not representative, and that's where you start to get into a bit of a problem on the bottleneck. Once you've got the starting point set, actually the processes should work much better, and that's what we found.
What about you, Joy? What do you think? What do women bring to the table in a company that other people may not? Others?
Well, I'm going to be, of course, biased. I think as women, we are excellent multitaskers. I think by nature, most of us have a maternal instinct that, we could think of what we're doing for our kids, plan out our dinner, take conference calls, all while, planning what class we're going to work out at later.
And walking the dog, which I did this morning
and walking
at 6
the dog,
a.m.
right. And so I think, but naturally, we're natural multitaskers, which I think that makes us really great to keep things on task and on schedule. And I find that, because we are more tapped into our emotions, I think we bring a level of creativity to the table of what you talked about in terms of advertising. I think that our viewpoint of the world and how we approach one another is a little different because we're wired a little bit different.
Can I just add one thought to that? If you think of it from a business perspective, you've got to ultimately reflect and understand your customers and your clients. If you're not representative of the society into which you are working,
Ben Davey's going to work in advertising.
Right.
Well, yes, I'm saying that's the expert. But
It's true of all industries.
Yeah. But it does work, exactly right.
Sarah, I'm curious for you. You've worked on so many different types of campaigns and accounts. When you're dealing with male clients, do you have to message differently to them when you're trying to reach, when we know that women are the ones who actually do a lot of the purchasing and buying, that most of the financial decisions are made by us?
So it's a great question, and there's not a simple answer to it. I mean, the real truth is that in all, and I suppose it's definitely true in advertising, I'm sure it's true in a lot of industries, when you are selling to people who are not you, you always have to imaginatively engage with a different mindset. And that requires work. It requires a lot of work. It requires getting rid of your unconscious bias. It requires insight. It requires going out and meeting your audience and truly taking on another point of view. So I do think that's particularly acute with a male-female split. And yeah, I mean, there have been some, I've definitely been in some hilariously awful meetings where we are faced with prejudices and shorthands that probably male clients have about other audiences. But I would say that's also true, I think, probably across the board. Yeah.
I asked about the lemonade stand here, and a lot of people raised their hands, but I'm curious, among the three of you, what's the most intrapreneurial thing you've ever done, and what's the most entrepreneurial thing you've ever done?
That's a good question.
Intrapreneurial and entrepreneurial.
Okay.
I stumped them. I didn't prepare them for this question.
Okay, so the most entrepreneurial thing within the sort of big corporates, I've actually stood up 3 new businesses. So each of those, one was sort of more financial services advisory, and then this new thing which is really creating lots of new companies. So that's I guess is the entrepreneurial box. In terms of entrepreneurial, going out and there's something that we've just launched in the UK where I've got a particular view on fan engagement in the sports fields. And we went out and found some amazing partners to sort of go and jointly build a business with them in partnership, obviously, with Barclays, but also with a number of key partners outside. So that was really taking an idea and really going for it.
And is that for your version of football, or is that for something else?
That is the, sorry everyone, yes, that's soccer, not football. It's soccer, it's rugby, it's all sports actually. And you know, I'm also very passionate about esports, because I think that is an amazing new opportunity for everyone.
Joy, what about you? Where have you been intrapreneurial and where have you been entrepreneurial?
Okay, I would say entrepreneurial and entrepreneurial are kind of married at this point. I think our company is now examining how we show up in an entrepreneurial space. It hasn't been something that we had done before, but I think the culture of what's happening now with executives is everyone has outside interest that they want to bring in-house that benefits the company. So I'd say right now I'm in the process of being an entrepreneur within Atlantic Records and bringing in my Culture Creators platform into the company because it's been
Will you just talk a little bit about more what it is?
So Culture Creators is basically finding people who behind the scenes who create culture, contribute to multicultural experiences, whether it's Black culture, Latino culture, and it's elevating executives and giving them an opportunity for diversifying industries where there aren't people of color in. So it's advertising, it's film, it's television, it's sports. So we've done college conferences, we do an awards banquet in LA every year, and we also have a mentorship program. And so these are efforts that I've done as an entrepreneur that actually benefits our company, and so we bring the platform internally so that we can also share in the revenue stream and the future building of the company.
Cool. And Sarah, what about you?
So, Intrapreneur, we created a program called the Griffin Farley Search for Beautiful Minds. Griffin Farley was a planner that we lost to cancer a few years ago, and to honour him, we create an open access free boot camp for anyone wanting to get into strategy, which is what I do in advertising. And we make it radically inclusive. You don't have to have any qualifications, and people really get jobs through it. So that's now in its 8th year, I think. And that's using our resources internally and the resources of the industry in our network. Entrepreneurially, I'm actually part of an app called Gender Avenger, which you should download, which is counting panels like this. So if you're at a conference, you can count the panel and you can name or shame the people, the organisation.
We are not being shamed here.
Not
we
being
are
shamed,
doing very well.
Not being shamed. But you can imagine in some of these conferences, like petrochemical content, you know, there's all male panels, and this is this fun, cool, kind of graphic thing, graphic little device. It's a citizen activist tool, and you can call out bad behaviour.
Wow. So tell me the name of it again.
Gender Avenger.
Gender Avenger. Okay, everyone has to download Gender Avenger. And can you praise people too, or is it only?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so praise this panel for sure. Any parting words of wisdom, because you were in a room today with all of these people who really care about entrepreneurship, intrapreneurship, and women. How do you prioritize? What advice do you have?
For me, I think there's no such thing as balance. I think that work-life balance is great. It sounds great, but I'm still trying to figure that out. That's why I think women, we're excellent multitaskers, and I think we just don't be afraid of just, giving it your all. We're only on this planet to live it once, so why not try it?
Ben?
Look, I think probably two thoughts. One is your own personal mindset. Whether you're male or female, if you can look at it in two ways. You either think you're 50% qualified for the job or 50% unqualified for the job. All right? And if you look at the 50% qualification that you do have, that's more than enough to go for that job or the next opportunity that comes your way. So that would be the first thing. I think the second thing is when you're hiring, personal thing, don't look to the CV. Look to the raw material of the individual that's in front of you.
That's a resume here.
Oh, sorry,
CV.
resume. Yes, absolutely. There's some good translation going on. Don't look too hard at the CV. Look at the individual. Look at the raw material, and figure out whether they can do that particular thing that you need them to do. And that's worked very well.
Sarah?
I think what I said before: see opportunity everywhere, but also see everyone you meet as an access to change and support. I think people are so desperately looking for supportive connections, which again is why I think what Wendy's doing is so powerful and why we're all in this room today. Everybody's desperate to connect with other people, and anything that you can do that slakes that thirst and that offers connections to people, you won't believe how these things blow up.
Excellent. I want to end it there because I think it's perfect ending, but I also want to remind everybody, social media today, let's get the message out to everyone who's not in this room. Please be using the hashtags ChooseWomen, WED 2019, take pictures, tweet, Instagram, it's also being streamed live on Facebook. I want to thank our panelists, Sarah, Ben, Joy. I'm Lauren Young, I'm going to be back later, and I want to thank all of you. Congratulations.